feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Tuesday morning. It's November 11th, and the Wolves are now 7-4, 11 games into the season after beating Utah in Utah on Monday night. I'm going to be joined by Britt Robson from MimPost here shortly, and we'll talk about that Utah game specifically some, but it has almost been 2 weeks since we've had Britt on the show, so we're going to focus some of the episode on what has sort of developed over those 2 weeks. A lot has happened. Ant has returned. Jaden's shown like sustainable growth. Nas is still kind of finding his way. The identity of this team is clearly skewing a little more towards offense than we're used to. And then I also just want to kind of spend some time on Finch's coaching approach this season. And specifically, I have some stuff I want to relate to Rudy Gobert there as well. So we'll have Britt coming up. But before we bring Britt in, like I said, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And I've got a few Prize Picks I like from the Tuesday slate of games. I was looking at what games am I going to watch tonight? Celtics and Sixers stood out to me. And then the Kings and Nuggets played later in the evening. From those two games, give me old friend Josh Minott in that Celtics game to have more than 8.5 points against Philly, and Aaron Gordon to have more than 16.5 points in that Denver-Sacramento game. If you are ever sitting down just to watch some NBA games night of, go to Prize Picks before the game or even during the game for live picks and just make some picks. Having $5 on a Prize Picks lineup doesn't have to be much. I do think it makes it a little bit more fun to follow over the course of the evening. There's always something going on over at Prize Picks. Check that promos tab for profit boosts and those sort of things. And as a reminder, how it works to put together a lineup at Prize Picks, all you need to do is put 2 or more picks in your lineup to win. If you do not yet have a Prize Picks account, we'd love it if you signed up and use the promo code DANE when you do sign up. If you do that, you will receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane when you create your account. Britt Robson on the Wolves coming up next. Let's go.
Hey, yeah.
All right, we are now joined by Britt Robson. Britt, the Wolves are now 7-4 after beating Utah again on Monday night. They have won 5 of their last 6 games, but those 5 wins have come against Charlotte, Brooklyn, Utah, Sacramento, and Utah. Again, those are all bottom 10 teams in the league, if not maybe bottom 5 teams in the league. And then their one loss in that stretch was to New York, who is or has been a top 10 team this season. You look at the numbers over kind of how they're charting over the last week. It seems like they're getting back up to water level from a number standpoint for the season, but it's juiced by this stretch to some extent. So
very reminiscent of last season when they went 17-4,
right,
but 0-2 against Indiana. And
I get what you mean.
You really do have to look at the caliber of opposition. At the same time, longtime Wolves observers or even short-time Wolves observers would say beating bad teams has never been a gimme. So the fact that they're at least doing that is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think positive trends have definitely come along in this stretch, or like extensions of trends with Jaden. We can talk about Julius. We can talk about, but I kind of want to start with Ant.
Sure.
If you look, he's now been back for 4 games. The first game was that New York game.
Right.
But let me just go through what his numbers on the season thus far have been. Portland game on opening night, 41-7-1, where he shot 50% from 2 and 50% from 3. The second game of the season in LA, he has 31-4-5, 62% from 2, 50% from 3. Then the New York game, his first game back after missing a week with the hamstring, he's 15-2-5, 33% from 2, 43% from 3. The first Utah game, 37-5-1, 56 from 2, 58 from 3. Sacramento game, 26-4-5, 40% from 2, 45% from 3. And then Utah last night, 35-6-6, 50% from 2, 56% from 3. Highly efficient, highly productive numbers thus far this season.
And last night, was something beyond numbers, in my opinion. They obviously came out overconfident against a team that was way overmatched, which had been proven 5 days earlier when they were up by 30 and coasted for, that game was over in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And so going down 9 points halfway through the second quarter, and then even trailing going into the beginning of the third quarter, what I saw from Ant was probably the most palpable version of I'm not going to let my team lose that I've seen from Ant, maybe ever, but certainly recently, where he called his own number, but was not really silly about it. Hitting shots that were good shots for him and just getting into people a little bit. You could see him a little bit coming over to Rudy at one point and saying something, coming over to his teammates. Just that kind of ambient leadership of your best player wanting to win more than anybody else on the court, and being smart about it. All three of those things, best player wanting to win and smart, and often hits the first one all the time, hits the second two sporadically, but hitting all three at the same time made a difference in that game. It gave everybody breathing room on that huge run they went on in the third quarter, where even if they did settle back into a little bit of we got this mode, it meant the difference in the game. It changed the whole tenor of the game. And so while the numbers on the stat sheet look great, the eye test looked even better.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, I know you know this, but was an issue earlier in Ant's career on a lot of different levels.
Yes.
Playing a team like Utah, especially in a game after you just beat them recently by 40,
right?
That would, 22-year-old Ant in his mind, that would, even if it was subconsciously, it would kind of trigger like we can kind of coast through this game,
right?
Or go ahead, Carl, why don't you get 40 in this game? We're playing Charlotte, or 62 in that one game,
right?
Where they lost to the Hornets, where Carl had 62. But also the start of third quarters, I feel like is such a story for this team, where it seems like over the past few years they've either come out so flat to start second halves, it's like they almost regressed during halftime somehow, or that team from 2 years ago was really good.
Yeah, they suffocated people
in third quarters, and I think a lot of that is Ant too, and what energy is he bringing to the jump of the third quarter? What intention is he bringing there? And I thought last night the energy and intention was absolutely there, but it was there above way more than even anyone else on the team was. It wasn't just that the team was doing it. Ant did it, and he brought everyone else along to do it.
I agree. And Finch has been calling him a lead guard lately, which I love.
Yeah.
I think that is the description. You don't call him a point guard. You don't call him the number one option or whatever. What he is right now is the person who organizes the backcourt and also is the reliant scorer. He has taken on a lot of that Mike Conley stuff. DDV has improved, and I would say, apart from opening night, has been a credible quasi point guard. But let's face it, he's still most effective when he cares more about creating chaos on defense and hitting long threes on offense. Those are the two qualities he has. His disruption on D and his long-range shooting on offense are his calling cards. And it has been really instructive to see Ant's assist numbers. I just looked them up this morning. They're kind of in the middle of his career in terms of points. I mean, dimes per 36 minutes. But he's making the hockey pass. He's making the early pass. He's not holding the ball nearly as much. His decision-making is much more rapid. He's getting up in transition. We don't see him walking the ball up nearly as much. These were all things that were points of emphasis in the preseason and were easy to slip back into, I think, just because you could tell in his first 3 or 4 seasons, this was also the way he played in college. This is the way he played in high school. He was a survey the court guy, and he has changed his methodology. And I think that pace can be really deceptive, but they are over the half court line a lot better than they used to be, especially when Mike is out. They're doing it much better. And so I just think that the types of improvements he's making show up more in the one loss column than they do on a stat sheet.
You know, I was thinking too last night is just how he seems like an improved isolation player, which is obviously he was never bad at before, but he seems more lethal in isolation. And I think it's a product of the mid-range.
Right.
It's keeping him out of what got him most, which was playing in a crowd in previous seasons where he's trying to get all the way to the basket once he leaves the three-point line. And that's where you see it turning the ball over in isolation when that second defender comes and he's not getting off of it. I feel like the mid-range is giving him more offensive possessions, just total, because it's fewer total turnovers. And it's proven to be, I should have looked up what exactly the mid-range numbers are thus far this season, but it's felt like a very effective shot for him.
Everybody raves about Ant's work ethic, and they're correct. I mean, what you see when he says he's worked on something in the summer, you see it on the court. And it is very obvious to me that what he worked on last summer was mid-range footwork, because his footwork in the mid-range is impeccable. It's everybody's got their own style in the mid-range, but he has got a really, really good pivot foot at 16 feet. And that is, kind of low key, really valuable, because not only can he get a shot off, but he can see the court and he's getting off the ball, but he's making the right pass. Sometimes he's making the pass that is not like the simple, keep it on the perimeter, just go to a different guy pass. And I do think his footwork has contributed to his playmaking and to his shooting.
Yeah, it's like post footwork in ways. Like
not quite McHale-esque, but
yeah, but right, you know what I'm talking about? It's kind of like a face up post move game, or like when you catch back in the day when you catch with your back turned to the basket, and then you would square and you'd play off of whatever one of your pivot foots are. Ant kind of like drives himself into that same 14-foot range and then plays off of his pivot foot and has a bunch of combo moves. We talked about that before off of that. And he can also pass off of those pivots and that play in there. I think when he does get into the mid-range and gets a pump and does have that footwork working, there's going to be the temptation for the defense to come in, and then those spray outs feel like they have such a high points per possession. Okay, there's Mike Conley is now wide open above the break.
Exactly. Julius
Randle's now wide open in the corner off of that. So we've talked so much about Julius being the hub of this team. It's been two really effective and efficient offensive hubs for this team.
Absolutely.
Against bad defensive teams. That's the curious thing here is what is that?
I mean, let's just state for the purpose of this podcast that we're talking. I have it here. The opponent's defense points allowed per 100 possessions. Denver is second. The Knicks are ninth. They lost both of those games. Those are two top 10 teams. Portland is 11th. Indiana 17th. After you get past that, the Lakers are 23rd. Utah's 24th. Charlotte's 25th. Sacramento's 27th. And Brooklyn is 30th. So you have 7 games against the 8 worst teams ranked in the bottom 8 in the NBA. Of course, the offense is going to be better. Everybody always looks better when they play against the JV. That's the way it is. But we can only have what we have in front of us. And what we have is a guy in Ant. We just talked about having an off-season regimen to work on certain things. And now maybe the optimist would say he's got a nice little ramp to step up against NBA, albeit inferior NBA competition, so that maybe in January and February, when the schedule gets fairly brutal, and March, he will be ready for that type of thing. And I think he and Julius Randle have a real respect what the other can do for that person's game. And that top of the pecking order on playmaking, I think, is right now totally unselfish.
Yeah.
And that is another really key part of the chemistry that's going on right now.
What do you made of Ant's defense thus far this season?
Comes and goes, but better.
Yeah.
I would say that it used to be that he would be like this, up and down, up and down. I think he's still that way, but I think the ups are higher and the downs are higher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, maybe the ups aren't higher because when he could really shut people off. I guess a more accurate statement would be his downs are not as low.
Yeah.
He is not
not checking out.
Exactly. That's saved me a lot of words. Exactly.
Yeah. I thought in the Sacramento game, and Jim Pete was on this right away of, their Ant off ball, playing in to be the tag man as the low man, like in pick and roll action.
Right.
They're just an awareness that, just frankly, Ant never, ever, ever, ever did.
Right.
Like his first and second season in the league. He did not understand the concept of guarding his man and guarding a place that the ball could go to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like everybody gets the see man, see ball. Right. But in the NBA, that is so pick and roll centric, that is trying to get to the middle of the floor there. If you are off ball, your responsibility is not just what's going on with the ball and have awareness of that, not only aware of what your guy is doing in the corner, it's trying to figure out where are the other guys going. That's what help defense is in the, and it's just different. It is different than high school. It's different than AAU. It's different than all of that because teams try to repeatedly exploit that. And Ant got exploited doing those things. I almost liked him more off ball this year than I have on ball. Not that they do need him on ball. I thought it was interesting last night that they in the second Utah game, they switched up the matchups to start. Do you remember in the first Utah game when they smoked him? Julius Randle was on Lauri Markkanen.
Right.
But it was kind of because Utah started Isaiah Collier, so they kind of started like 2 point guards in that game. They made the shift in the second game. Ace Bailey started. So it's shifted. So now Julius is on Ace Bailey. McDaniels is on Markkanen, which is off ball. He's chasing and doing all that. And then Ant's job last night became Keontae George, who is their, he's their Ant. I mean, for their
he's
Utah.
Their high use. He's incredibly high usage.
Yeah. And so Ant is then doing the Jaden, right? He's the point of attack defender in that sort of way. I got it from how Utah had matched up. But I had it in my mind of how great the previous Utah game was 4 games ago. And I'm kind of watching the first half as they're losing. And I'm like, are you wasting Jaden on Markkanen right now?
Especially since Markkanen actually had a better game.
Yeah, which kind of confirmed. I don't know, though. I'm not sure that that's actually confirmation. It just made me start thinking about Ant and, watching him run or defend pick and roll after pick and roll with Keontae George. It's one of those things that makes you go, okay, how much can I expect him to do at the point of attack defensively while continuing to put up those numbers offensively? That is a place where there just is going to be diminishing returns to defend that.
I do think also Utah was hot from 3 and they were really, really cold from 3 in the first game. And that variance of 3-point shooting really affects a defense, but it also gets you thinking more. There were more blow-bys last night than there were in the first Utah game because it was easy to let Utah just shoot and miss in that first game. And plus they were up 30 after 7 minutes. Or whatever it was. So I do think circumstances played a role in how the defense lagged a little bit in the second game compared to the first game. Some of it was Utah having 3 days off and pushing pace, as Elston Turner really sagely noted in the halftime interview. It was nice to hear him say, we had 3 days off. They have a lot more energy than we do right now. Wolves were on a back-to-back and they're pushing. But what I like about Ant, and to your point, I think one of the last times I was on here, I just was disgusted with the pick and roll defense, and that was not Ant. And I think they really missed him on the pick and roll.
Sure.
I think he's really become pretty good at seizing the switch and recognizing the rotation
Or even just giving ball pressure before they get into the half court, or like at half court,
Right.
that makes it kind of hard for Keontae George to get into pick and roll.
That's right.
In that.
Yeah, I just think that bottom line, the problems the Wolves have had on defense this year have very little to do with Ant. As a matter of fact, there isn't the stain on the defense that he used to leave.
Sure.
It's either a neutral or a net positive, I think, so far this season for him. And that is pretty much all you can ask for from your superstar, I think.
Let's grab a break, and then I want to talk about Jaden McDaniels, kind of the other piece of that point of attack defense, and also now a very big piece of the offense. We'll be back with Britt in a second. Today's show is brought to you by Falling Knife Brewing Company, and we want to let you know that Falling Knife now has a promotion going on in the tap room for every Wolves game through Scoreboard Social. How it works is you can scan a little QR code at your table or at the bar in the tap room at Falling Knife, and you, for free, can play kind of interactive games related to the Wolves game going on the screen. Again, it's kind of the same sort of thing, different scoring or rebounding, whatever type of propositions. Again, it's all free, and winners throughout the night win free drinks and other awards from the bar at Falling Knife. You already know Falling Knife is the best place to watch the Wolves amongst Wolves fans, but this season they've added this piece to make the in-tap room game watching experience even better. And also, if you are going to the tap room to watch a game, we would love it if you went and picked up some Second Apron beer from them. We collaborated with Falling Knife on a beer this year that we named Second Apron. You can buy Second Apron in liquor stores, but if you're going to pick up a bunch, would of course like you to grab it directly from the source. This coming weekend, the Wolves play on both Friday and Saturday. Get out to Falling Knife Brewing Company for one of those games. That's Falling Knife Brewing Company in Northeast Minneapolis. All right, we are back with Britt Robson. Talking about Ant defensively. Jaden has been able to be a player who gives them stuff defensively and offensively. Obviously, this has been a theme all 11 games, is Jaden's pickup here offensively. Your last column, however, you wrote about the idea of Jaden McDaniels. This was 3 games ago. It was after, a little bit has changed. But your assertion, I'm just interested to kind of dig into it, was that you felt that if Jaden came off the bench and Nas started in his place, that would be advantageous for the group globally.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew the odds were low, simply because asking somebody who has earned a starting berth since I think his second year, maybe his third at the latest, Jaden entered the starting lineup, and then asking him not to start is a big pill. And, Mike Conley's done it. Nas Reid has done it, but Nas came off the bench most of his time. My rationale for that was figuring out a way to get the second unit defense better and also fully deploy the versatility that Jaden has on both sides of the ball. I love it when he plays big. He had an opportunity to play big if Randle and Rudy didn't share the court with him. So I like that idea of kind of mimicking the Nas Jaden or the Randle Jaden. It's my belief that Jaden McDaniels is a better 5 than either one of those 2 other guys, those 6'9" forwards. I think his wingspan is bigger. I think he's a better rim protector. I think he's a better box out on the rebounds. I think his interior defense is better, despite the fact he's not as bulky as those guys. So I saw it as a chance for Jaden to also be the number 2 option on offense in that second unit, with whoever stayed on the floor for the Wolves among those top playmakers, and also be more impactful in a versatile way. I still believe that is a viable option that is there. But I have also seen what Finch has done, and it has obviously worked. Again, the caliber competition isn't great, but the promise of it, the execution of it is very good. And one of it is that Jaden's teammates have begun to recognize that he needs the ball. When he starts to go into his actions, there is a awareness by the other four people on the court to give him space the way you give a primary scorer space. It isn't like, oh, he's going to pass me if I do this, or if I get, he might miss, so I'm going to, get ready on the boards. It's what there's a deference paid to a very efficient scorer who has the ball if that person has proven themselves. And I think what I've seen is both Jaden is extremely popular in that locker room from Ant on down, and also that Jaden has demonstrated that he needs the respect of getting space, even when Rudy's on the floor. Yeah. And that was the thing I worried about, is if Rudy, Ant, and Randle are all on the floor, Jaden isn't going to be able to, to cook the way he has been. I think that they've been able to accommodate him in that offense. I also think the fact that he's been so good in transition and semi-transition, grabbing possessions on his own, has made that better. And then on the other end, having Jaden stick around in that second unit and bringing in Jalen Clark and having the Nas, the other thing that would have happened with the switcheroo is that Nas wouldn't be paired with Randle as much in that second unit, which has been a sieve. They just haven't been able to get stops. Well, now having both Clark and McDaniels on the floor with Nas and Randle has made a difference there too. And again, lousy competition, but point being, I stand by the proposition, but I also recognize that it isn't as needed now as it was before. And I don't think it is inferior to my thinking. As a matter of fact, I think it is easily as good, if not better, because it keeps the status quo. You don't have to worry about Jaden's feathers getting ruffled, not being the starting lineup, or Nas pressing even more because now he's a starter or whatever. It's a net better outcome, but it wasn't wrong-headed.
Yeah, I mean, I read it at the time before these last three games had happened, and at that time, we're in the heart of like, what the hell is going on with the defense? Yeah.
Defensive rating, right?
But at the time, I remember what I wrote down was, I think this is a solution when the solution is much more simple, and it's just that Nas needs to be better.
Right. Well, but Nas still isn't better.
Yeah, and again,
and the solution has been made. See, that's the thing.
Yeah, so I was wrong. Too. Yeah, I just the Nas piece is an interesting one and a little bit complicated here too, where like, I mean, if what had happened to Nas and his family in the offseason hadn't happened, then we're having a lot more conversations throughout this of like, what is going on with Nas? Why isn't he doing X, Y, and Z? I don't know how long, how long grief takes or whatever that is, we're going to give him that time. It strikes me as something Nas in that vacuum will improve over the course of time, and to make any sort of correction that would make things again funky once Nas is back to being Nas seems counterproductive to me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that's a legitimate point. I really hesitate to play psychologist on any players, but Nas Reid looks like a grieving player. He just does. And I actually think that is the kindest interpretation. I mean, it's out of his control. I don't think he has leaned into the grief. I mean, people operate in different ways. Cat, when he went through all his COVID bullshit, his mother dying, him getting it, his family members getting it.
Terrible.
He chose to lean into it and just let people know what was going on with him. Nas doesn't bring it up a lot, but he's going through something. He is not as crisp in what he's doing. He drops out of he's not moving his feet on defense the way he did before. If he's going to come in light like he came in again this season, despite the fact that he is a front court player, then he needs to move his feet a lot better than he has been. He did have one chase down block last night, but there were 3 or 4 other times where they just blew by him. And I think that maybe the book on him right now is take him off the dribble really quickly And I think when bad things happen to him on the court right now, I think it gets into his mind. And I think that's because he's grieving, and bad things are prone to prick bad things going on internally anyway.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I'm not really comfortable ascribing things that are very, very personal, and I have no real insight into other than what I'm seeing on the court. But what I will say is it's the worst I've seen him since his rookie year, probably. And it hurts. I mean, when they start to play really good people, they're going to need a better Nas than they have right now. In fact, I think in addition to the competition being so much worse, trading out Terrence Shannon for Anthony Edwards is the easiest explanation you can make for this turnaround, because they were terrible with Shannon on the court, and they are relatively terrible with Nas on the court.
Mm-hmm.
He has his moments, but they're very, very much outweighed by his ineptitude at other times.
You mentioned that chase down block yesterday, and if I start playing the reel in my head of like the 8 to 10 times Nas did something really good this season,
right,
they're just bursts of energy.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not thinking, it's reacting, it's diving. It's,
right. Although he did take a charge.
He did. That was,
which is another one that was he had his mind in that play, which was nice. But you're right.
Offensive rebounds, like he's getting his only productive times really are coming from those little spurts of just juice, you know, rather than like execution or flow or comfort or something like that. There hasn't been like the Nas Reid grooves, which do seem, whatever happened aside, psychological. Like that's just like heaters in basketball are psychological.
Right.
And to see him not get on heaters and like, again, I'm with you. I don't want to play psychologist. I don't know even how to
but you do see him turning the gas on the stove so much that all you're getting is gas. You're not getting flame. And you see him going for steals that he misses, and they go down and get a corner three, or taking a crazy like running banker that hits over the square above the basket.
He's like searching for a Nas Reid play.
He's searching for a Nas Reid boomlet. I mean, often those wild plays happen after something good has happened, and he immediately wants to parlay it. He wants to, all right, let me double down on that. Let the roulette wheel go, And it used to be that I'm in it, is what he would say, rather than I'm going to be in it,
He's a bench player. He has been for years, but he gets up to, 30 minutes because he plays really long, really long stretches. Once he comes in. And you think about last year, what that really long stretch looked like. His first time on the floor, it would be with both Dante DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker checking in with him.
They sustained the team for the first month and a half of the season.
So he would get that individual spark, and games would start well so often because that trio, when they came on and they're playing against second units, killed all year. And so to remove a little bit of the psychology element of it and to just look at Nas's production was X, now it's Y. Why is it different? I think it is actually just as important to look at context clues around the rest of the roster. That bench changing, when Julius would struggle last season, it'd be quicker to go to Nas. We actually saw that a little bit last night. Julius hasn't been struggling. So some other just factors have been moving around this season, I think in direct correlation to Nas. The interesting thing, though, is that's kind of been Nas's like specialty throughout his career. Is like, I'm just looking for minutes. I'll play wherever you want me to play.
Exactly.
Whoever you want me to play with, just let me get in.
And that is his self-image, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what he has taken pride in. And I've got to think the fact that is not being delivered this year is also weighing on it.
Sure.
And it was less important last night because Dillingham barely played, but I don't know about his fit with Dillingham. I think that Dillingham loves a big that hangs around in the dunker spot.
Rolls, Nas pops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another, again, succinct way to put it. But I do think that Rob's kickouts and Rob's, he's still so inexperienced that he's got bread and butter stuff. And most of the time it isn't Nas's bread that's being buttered there. It's,
Right.
whereas Julius Randle and Nas, when they're on the court together on offense, you could see there were a couple of times the other night where it was one pass to another and then back to that person who had repositioned either in the corner or in the low block, that there was an awareness there. And Julius has that same thing going on with Jaden and has been. It is really fun to watch Randle interact with people and know their habits as well as he knows them right now.
Sure.
And also because he's been so generous with that, him getting fed and the team rooting on the times when he just says, I'm going to eat, it's just been a really good, he's been a very, very positive person in terms of chemistry this year. And as somebody who ripped him royally for screwing up the chemistry for most of the beginning of last season, which was totally understandable given the circumstances of him joining the team, but it still was obvious to me. And what's obvious to me this year is that he is a anodyne force. He is a positive dude on the court right now. And, it's been fantastic.
Well, he opens up so much for his teammates.
Yeah.
Julius Randle does. And if you can't guard him one-on-one, you have to bring help. And he loves when you bring help because then he'll dime off everybody else. Nas doesn't get as much of that.
No.
From Julius, even though they play together a lot.
But they are better at it now.
Sure.
I
mean, the offense has been good when Julius and Nas have been on the floor together without
the other
Rudy.
end of the court.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, let's face it, everybody's good playing next to Rudy on defense. Everybody's good playing next to Randle on offense.
Right.
I mean, those are two things you can say pretty definitively. But I do think the level of improvement that I wouldn't call it low-hanging fruit because I think it's still not a certainty, but I do think improvement from Nas will be something that when the schedule gets tougher is going to be necessary, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think it'll get better.
With Julius, I mean, he finishes last night with 27, 8, and 7.
Yeah.
My notes during the game were first roughish Julius Randle game.
He didn't hit a shot for the first half. I don't think he scored the first half.
He did it. He did it.
I know.
27, 8, and 7 though.
Yeah.
So the production has still been there, but I did think the last two games, the Sacramento game and the second Utah game, Julius felt a little less like that watering station that you could just go to whenever you needed to fill up,
And that's because he's being a good teammate. That's because Ann has begun to take over. That's because Jade needs more space.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think.
So no negatives from that.
I don't think so.
I'm not saying there are. Today's show is brought to you by Storyworth Memoirs, and we are excited to have Storyworth back as a holiday season gift option for your parents or loved ones this year. The idea behind Storyworth Memoirs is that there's a bunch of stories that your parents or grandparents or whatever might have that you don't know. So how this works is each week Storyworth emails a loved one a memory-provoking question, a question that you get to choose. Questions like, what are your favorite toys as a child? What are you most proud of? A whole bunch of different things. And all your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story. And then after a year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book. Photos are printed in color. It is a treasure your loved one and you will be able to share and revisit for generations. Customers really do love Storyworth. They've printed over 1 million books and preserved 35 million family stories since their founding 13 years ago. They have over 48,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. I use Storyworth, and I think you should too. Give your loved ones a unique keepsake you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth Memoirs. Right now, save $10 or more during their holiday sale when you go to storyworth.com/DaneMoore. That's betterhelp.com/DaneMoore to save $10 or more on your order. Show is also sponsored by BetterHelp, and this November, BetterHelp is encouraging everyone to reach out, check in on friends, reconnect with loved ones, and remind the people in your life that you are there. Just as it can, take a little courage to send that message or grab coffee with someone on your team that you haven't seen in a while. Reaching out for therapy can feel difficult too, but it's always worth it. And it leaves you kind of thinking, why is this not something that I did sooner? We know the holiday season isn't easy for everyone, and it's important to stay connected. We're healthier when we have community and when we have support. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served over 5 million people globally, and it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on 1.7 million client reviews. This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/DaneMoore. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DaneMoore.
Here's the crazy thing, and so I'm probably going to write about this in my next column. Let's stop identifying this team as a defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
This team is an offensive team.
Yeah.
I mean, 26 games after the All-Star break, offensive rating 120.4, third in the NBA. True shooting percentage over 60, fourth in the NBA. 11 games this year, 120 again, not 124, 120.4, but 120.0, fifth in the NBA. But that's without Ant for 2 games, two and 3/4 games.
Sure.
Effective field goal 58.8, true shooting percentage 62.3, best in the NBA. That's a 37 game sample. And that's with different personnel, and that's with some injuries. Because after the All-Star break, I think there was a period when both Rudy was out and Randle was out for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so you've had Rudy and Randle out. You've had Ant out for part of this season. You've had not on the team last year, not on the team this year. You're incorporating some young people this year. And yet your core, the Wolves are a top 5 offense. I just don't think that that is a stretch. I think that what we've seen over nearly 40 games now is a team that can get 120 points per 100 possessions. And then if you look around, Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, the emergence of Jaden McDaniels, Mike Conley off the bench, DDV, they've got 3 guys right now hitting 50% of their threes. They got 2 other guys hitting 40%, including Jalen Clark. Shout out to you. But that was a 3-for-3 game. Other than that, not sure.
I'm not super.
But that ongoing debate over whether Clark had an unsustainable boom last year or not remains. But the point being, this team remains a really good 3-point shooting team, while also having a very good pick and roll threat in Rudy if you hit him right and he's in that right groove. And you also have ISO, mid-range, low block people. It is a 3-level offense that is extremely hard to defend. And the defense, meanwhile, we've discussed this. I've written about it. We've talked about it. I'm sure you've talked about it with others. Losing slow-mo and non-successive seasons and having Rudy slip a little bit, having Mike slip a little bit. Rudy obviously not slipping too much
of late. Yep.
Yeah. But this team is one better balanced, because I don't think it'll be first and 18th or 17th the way they were when they first time they went to the finals 2 years ago. But right now they're, I think, 4th and 19th, or third right now, and 14th, 3rd and 14th. I see no reason why they can't get up to 10th if they play really good defense while remaining a top 5 offense. And I think that could even climb into top 3. And if that happens, if they're 3 and like 9, then they're in the hunt. Then they are a team that could go to the finals and conference finals 3rd straight season. I don't see anybody beating OKC in the Western Conference, but I think they can get to the Western Conference Finals if they keep that top 3 on offense and at least strive for top 10 rather than our signature, our identity is defense. And maybe you just say it so it stays good.
I think that's part of it.
But the reality right now is not that this is a defensive team. The reality is that this is a very, very versatile offensive team.
Yeah, I do feel like if we had to say right now what is more likely, the Wolves finishing as a top 5 offense or a top 10 defense, I think I would say offense.
I would too.
Top 5 offense. I do think just with the defense, and I know it's perked up in 4 games from 25th in defense to 14th or whatever you just said it was. That is specifically a have not played good teams thing, or I have concerns about it given what the personnel is. But that's not, I don't use that same logic to take away from the offense, because what I'm seeing the offense do from an execution standpoint, I think, is understanding Chris Finch's image for the offense and doing it. And which is not holding the ball, looking for quick attacks. And when the quick attack is not there, getting off of it and moving it. And they're doing that rapidly over and over again. And that seems to have sunk in. I don't really know. I can't point at something and be like, this is what's going to mess up the offense.
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Pressure.
Okay.
I don't think the point guard situation is resolved in terms of ball control.
What about the lead guard position?
Well, again, I think it will be interesting to see what happens if teams sell out to pressure and bringing the ball up. I don't think he'll be bringing the ball up as much if that happens. Then it's up to Dante or Mike Conley or maybe Dillingham or
Julius,
maybe
man.
even Randle.
That's what's
I actually
happening.
think that Randle, I know, but I actually think that Randle, put it this way, I don't have full confidence in any of them being able to withstand. Portland's an extreme example in Indiana, but I think their ball pressure has become a lot more common in the NBA. This team just happens to have not played. I mean, Utah is ridiculous. Utah has 0 ball pressure until you're at the top of the arc.
That's true.
I mean, and Sacramento's worse, at least statistically.
Yeah.
You know, they lost their only defender on the starting lineup. Murray was the only guy who could defend.
And then they stopped playing Keon Ellis, who is the next one. He just doesn't play. Yeah.
I know. Genius Doug Christie, just like right in tune with the idiotic front office.
I meant it to focus on the offense and what it's looking like in the half court. I hear you on the pressure,
right?
And like, let's leave that a little bit.
Sure.
TBD.
No, I agree. Because we won't know until we see it.
I mean, what they're doing when they're facing pressure now is having Julius Randle walk it up. It's the same thing. Remember when the Wolves brought all that pressure on Jamal Murray?
Yes.
In the semifinals, 23-24.
Gordon,
Yeah, they just said, okay, Aaron Gordon, you bring it up then. Like. The opposing.
By the way,
power
Aaron
forward.
Gordon and Julius Randle are top 2 in point per possession on ISOs. The only guy that has more points possession on ISOs is Aaron Gordon. The difference being that Julius runs 4.1 possessions per game and Gordon runs 1.5 or something.
Oh,
so I mean, Julius is going almost 3 times as often on the ISO. But then again, how often do you really want to run ISO when you have Nikola Jokic on your
Yeah, no, Gordon has been
he's amazing.
Incredible.
The fact that that guy's never made an NBA All-Star team is a fucking disgrace.
It does. When I do watch them, and we'll see them on Saturday, I watched their last game against the Pacers. I will say with Aaron Gordon, it does feel like a matter of time until he misses a month. You know, like just injury wise, like
okay, yeah,
you know what I mean.
Right,
like I not basing that off of like what he looks like or anything. It just he's this player I struggle to. I think Julius Randle will play more games this year. We'll have a more sustainably. Not that we're doing an Aaron Gordon versus Julius Randle here thing here necessarily, but I
it's
think
a really interesting comparison.
It really is. Which
is a huge compliment to Julius Randle, I will tell you.
Yeah,
because we both love Aaron Gordon.
Yes,
the fact that Julius Randle has reached that level, also the fact that Julius Randle has 3 All-NBA appearances and Aaron Gordon has none, has everything to do with the Western versus Eastern Conference.
I don't know. Aaron Gordon was in the East for a while.
I know, and to be fair, I think Randle got one in LA, but I'm not sure. Was it all with New York? All
I think it was all in New
Okay,
York.
maybe it
Yeah,
was.
for two All NBAs. I think 3 All-Star teams
Okay.
is the Julius thing. With the offense, and we bring up the shooting, we bring up the offense, and they're figuring out how to play within this Finchian flow, blah blah blah.
Right.
And the optimist would say a better understanding of the offense, having these multiple hubs of Ant and Julius, is leading this team to be an extremely efficient 3-point shooting team.
Mhm.
The number one team in 3-point percentage in the NBA right now is the Houston Rockets.
Right.
They're last in volume.
Right.
So, that's
Right,
not
right,
all that meaningful.
right.
The number 2 team in 3-point percentage this season is the Minnesota Timberwolves at 41.5%, at more middle of the pack
and threes.
Yeah, which is a big difference than 30th
Exactly.
in
Exactly.
volume in that way. There are Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley are both shooting 50% from 3. There are only 3 players in the league who are shooting over 50% from 3 that have
And
taken
Jaden
33s. Jaden McDaniels is one of them. The other is Rui Hachimura, and the other one is Tari Eason. I mean, we could be talking about on Friday that they're the only guys
you'd get if you name those Hachimura, McDaniels, and what was the third one?
Tari Eason. It is over 30 attempts. It is over 30 attempts.
None of those are sustainable.
Right.
I mean, let's face it. And look, if
But the
if
looks, they're
Jaden
dreaded.
regresses to 42% for the season, So, but at the same time, it's been very helpful, and it's setting up a lot of other things he does. And maybe, all that work, Jaden works probably as hard as Ant. It doesn't talk about it as much as usual, doesn't talk about much of anything, but he is a warrior. He's a warrior worker, and that 3 looks better, and his confidence level is off the charts right now.
And the quality of the looks.
Yeah.
Like the quality of the looks.
Right.
I mean, we laugh about
a good point.
We laugh
And
about
that's
Hachimura
Randle.
and Eason, but Hachimura is playing next to Austin Reeves and
Right.
Luka Doncic. That is a higher quality of look that is generating there.
Yep. And Eason's playing off of Sengun and KD.
Right? Like,
Right.
and McDaniels is playing off of Ant and Julius, and Conley's playing off of Ant and Julius. Like, it is, I don't buy that those guys are going to all shoot over 50% from 3 this season, but I do buy the idea that the Wolves will be a top 3 to 5 team in 3-point percentage this season. You wouldn't bet on?
I would bet on it.
Yeah.
I would bet on it. I think that I don't think last year's post All-Star break, which I said included injuries and included some stiff competition in February, obviously the second half of February after the break, but it wasn't all, wasn't the last 21 games, it was the last 26 games, and the 5 before those 21 were tough. And also, I just think that they figured some stuff out. And here's another key point that kind of gets in the way of my pressure argument. But in 2023, the Wolves were 27th in turnovers. In 23-24, they were 22nd in turnovers. Last year, they were 18th in turnovers, and right now they're 14th in turnovers.
Yeah.
They've gone 27, 22, 18, 14. They are slowly but surely learning how to take care of the ball better. And that is huge, both in terms of helping to buck up what has become a less good defense by not putting you in transition all the time, and also by being able to function more efficiently on offense. Obviously, if you're not turning the ball over, your offensive rating goes up. It's just axiomatic.
They have been a really good 3-point shooting team in terms of percentage for a while. The volume would be the thing that you could have picked at over the course of time. I do think there's more signals that everything they're doing offensively, including the turnovers, sustains. I don't think this is going to, I don't know. We might look back at October, November and be like, oh, they shot a crazy percentage from 3.
Because they were playing a bunch of chumps.
Yeah.
And that, again, that caveat is there. But what I will say,
but they're still going to be a good 3-point shooting team is what I'm saying.
The key to me is diversification. They have, because Randle and his teammates know each other better, because Ant seems dedicated to winning this year more than ever before, because Jaden has emerged as a much more versatile threat. Let's face it, if Jaden was hitting his usual 32 from deep, that offense looks a lot different. But what we see now is Utah thinking that they wanted to stop the three in the mid-range last night, and Rudy just destroying them in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
If you pay attention to Rudy, then other things are going to beat you. If you pay attention to Randle and Ant in the mid-range, Rudy is going to get open. Yeah. And if Rudy gets open early, if I were an opposing team, I would just make sure Rudy does not have a good first quarter.
Sure.
And that makes a lot of difference. But
that's psychologist thing again.
That is a slam dunk. I have no problem saying that Rudy Gobert on a roll early is bad news for an opponent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Rudy was the last thing I wanted to talk about, but I also wanted to kind of wrap it into Finch's style of solving problems. You wrote about that a little bit in your last column, of solving problems with patience.
Yes.
Rather than what you wrote, quote, was Finch has demonstrated that patience and minor tweaks that don't involve abrupt challenges to the existing rotation can and usually do pay off. I was thinking about that, knowing we're doing this pod and Rudy's playing well.
Exactly.
Last night I was thinking
all the things people were shrieking about 2 weeks ago are suddenly gone.
And the point, well, and opponent as well.
Yeah.
But the point from a Finch standpoint is he didn't change anything. He stayed patient with it, rather than, making some sort of big shift to the rotation. And that has just been a staple of Finch's coaching style over the course of time. And I think it's actually the number one thing that drives people most crazy about Finch.
Absolutely, because he does not, if you're going to make tweaks, you're going to play people who aren't playing.
Yeah.
And the leash Naz Reid has versus the leash any of those young players have is ridiculous. But there's a reason for that. He knows Naz. He knows what Naz can do. He knows the situation Naz is in right now. And he knows that right now Naz needs 100% backing. And when people talk about Naz, inevitably the questions, how's Naz, he'll figure it out. Things are, and he had a really good do this or do that. He's been overpraising Naz, and he understands that Julius Randle thrives under his praise. I mean, anybody who thinks that Chris Finch is a bad coach just needs to look at what happened to Julius Randle from the moment he stepped here to what he is now. I mean, you talk about player development of a veteran who had a ceiling and suddenly burst through that ceiling months ago and is now like up on the roof building a new house, And
what is the primary reason for that? Patience
and support.
Yes.
I mean, not only patience, not like, all right, you got 20 more minutes to figure this out. I'm being patient with you. It's like, take your time, figure it out. Here's what you can do to be a little better at it. Here's what we can do. I like he often says, we're not getting Naz enough shots, or we're not getting Dante. Dante had a terrible start. 6 turnovers first game, and Dante we've learned subsequent to what Finch has said to me in that interview, and also what his history has been with other teams, is he's a volatile guy. If he doesn't like the way things are going, it's evident. And so Finch nipped that in the bud. Finch said, we need to get Dante some shots and, get him off. And there were, a lot of plays run for Dante all of a sudden, and a lot of green lights flashing in front of Dante to take this shot, even though you've got Julius Randle working wonders. You've got other people, Jaden going, Dante, let him rip. Right. And Dante's playing better defense and taking care of the ball better as well because of that. And, that's people think that coaching is when to call a timeout or when to sub somebody in. It's whether your players enjoy playing under you and with each other. That is more important than anything in the modern NBA.
In the NBA, yes. That's a distinction. I think that's why Finch approaches it the way he does, because he's
colleges,
coaching.
I mean, the team is the extension of the coach. It's one of the things I can't stand about college is that, you do what the coach says, you do it a certain way, you have a certain personality, and that's it,
Right. It is cool to have seen it work with Finch
over and over.
Yeah. And maybe it takes a long time, and it takes a while for the cake to bake line.
Right.
Was what Finch said last season, but it did. And I just think we've seen that through. It's funny you mentioned the timeouts. Like, what did Finch get lambasted for first in his first postseason? An unwillingness to take timeouts in the Memphis game. It is kind of the same psychology again of like letting your players play through it, rather than making in the flow. It's like a macro. He applies that same thing.
And it's also he said that Jaden isn't going to become more involved in the offense. He said it for 2 years, and it just never happened. But he never said, we're
getting rid of that.
If you mentioned, Jaden isn't getting the ball enough, he said, I know it's unfortunate. We need to do more of that. And Jaden he threw out the barometer thing, as like, if our ball movement is there, Jaden gets touches. Well, now that process has gotten to the point where that's not the barometer. The barometer now is whether or not, people are going to learn how to play around Jaden being a force on offense. And that is happening too.
I do. The reason I wanted to talk about this, I want to talk about this strategy from Finch and the style of coaching that he applied. And we've seen it with Julius Randle, you're referencing that, the Jaden, those pieces, vision for how Ant would play, all down the line. I think he's also had a years-long vision for Rudy offensively. No, I'm serious.
I know.
And the vision was, we're not going to do it like Utah.
Exactly. And not only that, but we are going to exploit all the things that Rudy could really do on offense. And that turned out to be a big mistake.
Yeah. Agreed. Post-ups the first year.
The whole idea, I mean, one of the most embarrassing Chris Finch moments by far was the Rudy Gobert press conference when he came. And the idea that he was going to suddenly be unleashed as this offensive force.
Seamless integration. Yeah. That's not
Quinn Snyder coached Rudy Gobert extremely well. Yes, he relied on him way too much on defense and limited him to certain things on offense. But both of those were not bad decisions. The Wolves do happen to play defense differently than Utah, but the idea of limiting Rudy to what he does best is turning out to be, with each succeeding year, more and more accurate, even given that Finch has cracked open a little bit more of Rudy's offense.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying is, like, if you were to watch 10 Utah games from 2018 and how Rudy functioned offensively, it is just different. And Rudy is playing in more of like a good example, the short roll stuff. He was not a short roll catch and passer type of guy. They let that happen sometimes. They let him just function, like float in the dunker spot more often. And I'm not saying this is all worked. I'm saying it has gotten better over time.
That's right.
And it will be the ultimate test of this whole like Finchian optimism, that the players can be the best versions that we think they can be. And what I'm trying to say is Rudy is doing more things offensively.
I agree with that.
Than he did before.
And again, bad competition. But what I will say in support of your point, if Rudy Gobert is ass on offense, the Wolves have a real problem because he is right now in this personnel, has been amply demonstrated this season, absolutely necessary to keep them even in the middle of the pack on defense. And so if you were going to have Rudy Gobert as needed as he is, then you're going to have to figure out ways to make him feel good about himself on that side of the ball and make teammates not resent him on that side of the ball, because his mistakes are loud. And when he has bad games, hand-eye coordination or whatever you want to call it. A good Rudy Gobert offensive game is, I mean, if you go back and look, I'm sure games where Rudy is like over 18 points a game, they probably win 90% of the time.
Right.
I mean, it just is, it is important. It's important to figure out how to use Rudy in ways that are not cookie cutter. And I also think and you're better, I think, on half court X's and O's than I am. So you could probably parse this out, and maybe you already have. I haven't yet. Why are Jaden, Randle, and Ant all getting so much more room in the mid-range now than they did before?
I've talked about it a little bit. I think Rudy's doing a good job of navigating dunker spot to dunker spot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's going
to the weak side every time.
Yeah, and just reading it better.
Right.
And that makes some sense, right? You get a better understanding of how Julius works. Just always go to the right side because he's going to go left.
Right.
And figuring out, I think Ant too, who
and
takes
is it
a lot
further
of space.
away from the basket too, do you think?
No, I would say it's deeper to the
timing.
Deeper the
out?
baseline.
Okay.
When I'm talking about the spacing of specifically when Ant and Jaden and Julius are more operating from the middle of the floor.
Right.
I think he does a better job in the dunker spot there. And then also he's increasingly in his time in Minnesota played in the slot and the dribble handoff sort of spot there, which is if he's involved in the action or he has the ball in his hand.
Good hands days are really important.
Yeah, but I'm just even saying he's just holding the ball above the break from three there. You can't just leave
above the
him.
break. Okay, yeah, sure.
You can't just leave him if you're the defender there because he's going to do a dribble handoff to Mike Conley or Anthony Edwards or Dante DiVincenzo.
That's right.
And we just talked about what those guys are doing.
Early in games, it seems.
Sure. It's just, do you get what I'm saying of just the overall positioning? There's a greater frequency of him being on the perimeter and guarded because they're looking for dribble handoffs.
Right.
And he's doing a deeper space, I think, in the dunker spot. It's making it clean.
Yeah, no. So they're running more actions with him out on the perimeter, and he's also moving better within the paint.
Yes, that's what I would say thus far. I do think my theory with Rudy, and we're talking about the good things he's doing offensively against these bad teams, is I think he needs to find a style of play for when they're playing a better team.
I agree.
Offensively. Because these finesse finishes and stuff like that, when you're being guarded by Jared Allen, it's not going to work. Or Isaiah Hartenstein. So, and we see this in the playoffs every single year. Is Rudy has extremely diminished production numbers.
Great.
But the extremely depressed numbers are because it's playing against better teams, better players. So he can't individually get his little finesse finishes and those sort of things consistently because those teams are better. And then the big performances are offensive rebounding games.
Right.
So if I'm Chris Finch, I'm trying to get through to Rudy Gobert when you're playing against a team that you can't do the 12 points you had in the first quarter like you did against Utah.
Yeah.
We're not looking for that.
Right.
Your intention here, first and second, is to be an offensive rebounder in this game and be a problem underneath the basket.
Which is Utah. Putbacks and pick and roll is what they did all the time.
Yeah, I just think, and I think the hard thing with Rudy is personally, he doesn't feel like his production will change based on the opponent.
I know.
I can do this, but
Rudy vastly overrates his offensive abilities. It is a constant part of. It may be one of the reasons that he is so good on defense.
It's like Cat on
he
defense.
Regards himself, as more of a player than he is, and that probably makes him in with 80% of the NBA. I mean, it's very hard, I think, to be realistic about who you are, and if you are a starter and an awarded starter, as a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, then you're going to regard yourself pretty damn well, and there's nothing wrong with that. Except when you go up in a situation where you are at a market disadvantage and your coach has to tell you that that's not it for you this time.
Right.
And that's, again, Finch. I've had assistant coaches off the record tell me that Rudy's one of the most stubborn people they've ever had to work with. you know?
Mhm.
And like so many things, your vice and your virtue is right next to each other, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying with the Cat thing. It
Yeah.
really like, and Cat on the defensive side of the floor, which we saw for so many years,
Yeah.
there was a subset of teams that you could play Cat in defensively very
Right.
competently.
Right.
You know, if it was a team that didn't really have a guy who could step in and hit mid-range shots consistently, deep drop, right?
Right.
Deep drop. Carl's back. He's 7 foot. He's big. He's strong. He's thick. Like, you know, that's competent drop coverage
Right.
defense. Or it's a team where they really do have a guy who can go, well, Carl moved his feet well enough to be able to blitz there. But if they played a team who could do both of, who could exploit those things,
Right.
then Carl goes from being a 5 or a 6 out of 10 to a 1 or a 2 out of 10. And I think it's very similar with Rudy, where there are just, it's based on, in many ways, what the opposing personnel is and what they can take away from him offensively that really changes how you should use them. So that's always the thought in the distance, right? With Rudy, of like, what can this look like in the playoffs? What can this look like in the playoffs? And to me, what it needs to look like in the playoffs is toggle. It needs to be like Rudy is playing different ways based on opponent. Otherwise, you'll get stinkers that hurt you.
And I do think the ability of 3 players now to burn you in the mid-range is really important. That's a lot of cover for Rudy. That is a lot of Rudy. You don't have to do X, Y, and Z. You just have to do X and a little bit of Y,
right?
And get out of the way for some of these other things, or get in the way at the right time.
Right.
Set a screen on the baseline, or set a screen at the nail. For like, if you set a screen for Ant or Jaden right now, it's pretty damn good play.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think he's learned those things over time. He's doing more of those awareness things. Like, this helps.
Right.
I'll do more of this. So yeah, moving in the right direction. It will be, I mean, even just these next 2 games, he did really well against Sabonis. But that was Sabonis' first game back from injury.
Sabonis shouldn't have been playing.
I mean,
that guy was wincing and touching his ribs like the entire game.
I mean, and it was just not your typical
weird.
Rudy Sabonis matchup
at all. In fact, they barely guarded each other.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it was just Sabonis was not.
They put Sabonis on Randle. That was a I'm sure
they did.
Sabonis really appreciated that.
Yeah, right, with the bruised ribs. Yeah. So I think Friday, Sabonis, if Sabonis is more healthy, this will be more of a test for Rudy. I mean, both. Yeah. That's more a defensive side of the ball,
right.
Test for him, and then obviously Jokic on Saturday. I don't expect what Rudy's production has been over these last 5 or 6 games to sustain through those 2.
No,
but can it not kill you? You know,
exactly.
and that's that middle ground.
And given Sacramento's defense, it cannot.
Yeah.
I mean, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan on the same team. Are you kidding me?
That's a crazy team, man. It's like Russ. Then they started Precious Achiuwa, who they signed a week before. Yeah, that was.
Who was a chucklehead, man.
Yeah, but they put him in because they needed somebody to guard Julius Randle.
I know.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that?
No, I'm good. I think that again, it's a good time right now. You know, they're knocking off people. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the cup.
Okay. Okay.
Which everybody who knows anything about me knows I think the cup is silly and I think it's stupid.
Well, let's talk about it.
But what I will say for all you Cup fans is that the schedule is incredibly weak. They have a really good chance of being in Cup games that matter now. And I will point out that that's not a good thing because they were 4-0 in the Constellation Cup game rounds, and it made a huge difference both seasons that they've had the Cup thus far. So,
they won
if your reward is playing OKC in a Cup game, an extra game against OKC, I don't know. I'd give me that extra game against, Sacramento or whatever, So,
I forgot about that piece of it.
But I do think that I can't remember the third team, Utah, Sacramento. There are 2 others, but one of the other two is also really bad.
Is it Portland?
I don't think so. I think it's like, anyway, somebody will know.
Yeah.
But it's a very easy
It is. Yeah.
cup group.
Other than the Thunder. So even if they lose
Right,
to the
right,
Thunder,
right.
they can still be 3-1, and then it's point
Right.
differential, and they beat Utah by 40. Like, yeah, they're probably gonna go to the
They're going to have
knockout
those
round.
cup games,
Yes.
and everybody can get all excited, and they might lose that game and just remember that loss in April.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's probably if you simmed it out a bunch of times, maybe costs you a win over the course of the season. I do think it's been interesting for like the teams who have gone to the championship in that. And I mean, I know the Bucks won it and they didn't have a great season, but Indiana went, right? And the Thunder, and I think there are some positive externalities of it in it being a higher level of competition game in November or December. It would be for those.
It does seem that, I mean, you made the point, and it was a good point last time when I was ragging on the cup of
Noted
how
cup defender.
minimum salary players or
Yeah.
people on their first contract get a pretty nice payday,
Yeah, it's
even
like-
if they finish second or third.
I mean,
mean,
it's
it's
like 500
money.
grand.
It's money. And so there's a point to be made as to why it's more competitive. I just think it's like such a false construct to me. And, you know, I can't believe you remember, was it Indiana and Milwaukee who won the last two cups or whatever? Is that what happened? Because I have no idea. I have,
The Lakers won one.
did
right?
they? Oh, that's right. The Lakers did win one.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like one of those things I can't get my
It's
brain to pay
December
attention to.
basketball and meanwhile, anyway, I've been a steadfast cup denier for quite some time now, all 3 years, but but I do want to point out that the Timberwolves, I predict, will advance into legitimate cup play for the first time in their franchise history.
No, and I do think there's something interesting about that in that it'll be a high level games in
Maybe
the
at home.
semifinals and then the semifinals and the championship is in Vegas.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, the knockout round will be at home. I mean, yeah, there's, especially as we sit here today after 5 of their last 6 games were against Charlotte, Brooklyn,
Right.
Utah, and Sacramento.
Exactly.
I am sitting here eager to see this team play against better teams, and that will happen in that. And I just think that's important for this team over the course of this season. So we will see what happens with the cup. You guys can read Britt's weekly column over at MinPost. I think you said you're writing that tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm writing tomorrow. It'll probably be out Thursday. It might be out tomorrow.
We got a handful of days off here until Friday.
Wait till Thursday, is it?
Friday.
Thursday night? Friday. Okay.
Yeah, back-to-back Friday, Sac.
Oh, that's
Cup.
right. Yeah. 3 days off and then a back-to-back Denver again on the back-to-back.
Yeah.
Kind of rough, but
yeah, hopefully some rest before that. And if they can take care of business against the Kings, that'll be a good game there. But anyways, it's I know maybe it can be hard to keep up with everything John or Jace or Chris are writing during the season because they're writing every day. I enjoy when I sit down to write Britt's column and like, okay, or to read Britt's column, it's like it is a distillation of kind of what's been happening, where I think on this show and again with the beat writers, we can get a little hyper focused on what just happened. So as always, recommend Britt's columns over there on MinPost. You can follow him on Twitter at Britt Robson. Kyle is coming to town this weekend for the back-to-back. So the next episode will be with Kyle over the weekend. I think we're just going to do one after the Denver game, talking about both the Kings and Nuggets games there. So that's what's coming up next on the show. Until this weekend with Kyle, he's Britt. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah.